Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of the JT and Big O podcast. We are your hosts, Video Geek JT and Ryan Big O Regan. How are you doing, my friend?
I am good that you finally got your name right. I am so happy for you. You probably can't tell from the camera or the microphone or anything, but my heart is just pumping out of my chest. I am so pleased.
He's happy for me. I'm not as stupid as I was last week.
Yes.
Funny story. For those who realize this, I am a filmmaker every once in a while. And a few years ago, I made a film called Riding with Sunshine with my friend Kristen Kummer. And it was a very, very serious film. It involved racism and cops. And these somewhat racist cops in the film, no one kind of realized that these were the badges that they were wearing. And I wish the light
you have to pull it back or up a little.
How about now? Can you?
I can see it, but I just can't read it.
Says Raccoon City or Raccoon Police.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what was available on Amazon. It was like, oh, you can get the official Raccoon Police police badge from Resident Evil. Like, cool. That's what I'm going to use for my super serious film about racism.
Yeah, if I ever do something with the police, I have a badge that says Vermont Highway Patrolman that I got as being one of the sponsors for Super Troopers 2. So nice. I'm going to use that if necessary.
I didn't even know they were Vermont. I thought it was... Actually, I didn't know where they were from.
Oh, yeah, no. You got to have that Vermont, so this way you got that, Canada crossover sort of thing going on. Actually, that is basically the premise of the second movie, that they redo the borders.
Oh, really? I only ever saw one, and by the way, I know you gave me the poster for number 2, and it's still around here. It's still got to go up. I just got the
that's because I've got the one signed by all of them, so obviously I do have a little bit of favoritism on my end.
A little bit.
Yeah. Plus, I've interviewed at least 2 of them.
Well, wasn't the end of the last one the fact that the Super Troopers were ended and they just became regular police?
Yes, but, I don't want to give too much away, but obviously things quiet down since then, and there was a particular incident. I'm not going to say which particular trooper, far up. Something happened that pretty much got them all taken off.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, this fucker.
All right. Eventually, I'll get around to that movie, but
how you didn't do it for 420 already astounds me. And here we are, like 10 days removed, practically, and.
Well, you're the producer. You're the one who puts in the stories we talk about. Why didn't you bring it up? Oh,
again, I enjoyed 420, so
he forgot.
I don't know what kind of cognitive thinking you expect me to have at some points.
I have nothing.
I have plenty.
Well, on today's episode on a very special episode of the JT and Big O podcast.
We have Maya Bialik, and she's going to be talking about her drug issue in high school.
It's balloons for a party.
Whippets. Yeah.
So, we're just a little bit of a warning ahead. We're actually taping this a few days earlier than we normally tape our podcasts because, unfortunately, I have some personal matters I'm going to be taking care of, so I won't be around on our normal day, which is Sunday. So some of the stuff we talk about may go a little out of date. Hopefully not. If it's way out of date, we'll try to fix it somehow. I don't know how. I'm kind of lazy, so I make no guarantees on anything. But I just wanted to give that little warning out. But to go right into it, the first thing we wanted to talk about today was actually a topic we already spoke about. AMC saying they're not going to be playing any films from Universal anymore.
Oh, this is a full shit the bed sort of situation. This is the sort of thing that's not going to help anybody, really. It's not going to help the theaters. It's not going to help Universal.
Yeah, but
obviously, just to backtrack on some of the old stuff, Universal went ahead and made some decisions about some of the movies that they were going to get and have come out this year. And instead of push everything back, they decided to release some things on video on demand and streaming. Case in point, Trolls World Tour, which I personally enjoyed, and that was earlier this month. It has done well. I don't know if it's as profitable as it could have been, but it's certainly, as far as all parameters are concerned, a success. Because of that, Universal has decided, oh, well, we're looking into maybe doing theater and video demand at the same time for some pictures, or maybe some pictures go to theaters, some pictures more on demand than we've been doing. Really, the CEO of Universal, Jeff Shell, he's been backtracking his argument and story at least 3 times since he decided to come out with that. So I don't know what Universal wants to do. It's just they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, in a sense.
Yeah, I don't know whose side I'm really on with this one, because to be honest, at the same time, AMC going straight out and saying we are just completely, utterly banning Universal. It's like that old saying to you're gonna cut off your nose to spite your face. I can
Wow, I
understand.
didn't even know you knew that one.
Yes, I did. I can understand if Universal or if AMC just straight out said, like, okay, Universal's not allowed to do that. If they decide they want to stream at the same time as play in theaters, we will not air any of those films.
Right.
That's understandable. And you place Universal in a good place to say, okay, well, what choice do we make here? And they'll probably decide to stick with AMC. Now you make the decision straight out to say, well, we're just straight out just to punish you. We're not playing any of your films, no matter what. And it's like, okay, who's going to hurt here? Because on one corner you have Universal, owned by Comcast, the biggest cable provider in the United States, one of the biggest internet providers in the United States. They're going to do well no matter what. On the other hand, you have AMC, who, as we spoke around 2 weeks ago, was in some financial trouble. And, trying to play these games with a bigger company, I don't think you're going to do too well.
Yeah, but now, as much as we want to say that this is like a he said, she said sort of situation just this week, on top of that, they're not the only players in the game now, because now Regal, or rather Cineworld, which I think is the conglomerate that owns Regal Theaters,
Yes.
has decided to throw their hat into this ring and side with AMC. Now, mind you, this whole idea is there's like I don't know if there's like a written law about this, but there's like an understanding, rules of engagement almost between film distributors and the theaters. And for the longest time, theaters have always said that they will not showcase a movie in theaters that is also being shown outside of theaters, like whether it be video on demand or simply back in the old straight to VHS sort of days, that sort of stuff. It's either we get the theater first, we get to show it first, then after enough time, it can be distributed elsewhere. That's always been the rule, probably dating all the way back to the 70s and 80s. And at this point, yes, given the circumstances, it's kind of a shitty situation all around, because there's no clear winner. The theaters lose, Universal loses. Think about if something like what is it, Jurassic Park Dominion or Fast 9, things that are coming out in the next year or two. If that stuff isn't shown in theaters, you're basically knocking down a multi-million-dollar movie, possibly part of the billion-dollar club, to chump change in comparison.
Possibly. Um, yeah, I don't know how the numbers will go, and I think going forward that maybe someone like Universal is going to be the control subject and see how much money they can make without theater help.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the control of it, because really the whole thing started just with like miscommunication. Like, look at someone like Warner Brothers. Now, Warner Brothers, as we discussed, they're going to go ahead and they're going to put Scoob out on I still love the saying Scoob. I love the word Scoob.
Yeah.
I don't know why it couldn't have been Scooby Doo or something, but Scoob with the exclamation. I love that. Anyways, they're going ahead. They're putting it on video on demand. They're putting it on streaming. It's going to be for rent and for buy. But Warner Brothers also went ahead and told the conglomerate of theaters, like whatever the board or body or the skull and crossbones sort of organization that runs the theaters, they told them, hey, we're probably going to do a couple of movies out on demand given the circumstances at this time, but we still want to have our agreement with the theaters, have our relationship keep going, and when the theaters are up and running, we'll be working with you to put something out there for you. They at least went ahead and said, hey, I'm going to do this, but don't worry. Universal pretty much just said, hey, we're doing this, and didn't tell them anything. So it's kind of like bad blood in that sense.
Yeah, and as I kind of mentioned on another episode, NBC, which is the actual company Universal is NBC Universal, they're known for making some poor decisions. But at the same time, it's like, all right, let's be honest here. Not releasing your films in theaters will overall hurt your films because there is a lot of money to be earned by still playing in theaters. People still like the theater experience. But at the same time, theaters are bringing in less and less people. That's why they've had more of the gimmicks over the years, putting in the recliner chairs, putting in the dine-in theaters, because less people really want to go to the theater. A lot of people are satisfied staying at home and watching it on their TV, on their phones, etc. Netflix has been releasing a lot of what would be considered by most big budget features, but they're just releasing it on their streaming network, and people are more than happy to just watch it there than watch it in a theater. If you could correct me if I'm wrong, but mostly what's successful in theaters these days are the big budget visual movies, not any of the smaller drama pieces.
Well, John Campia, who does the John Campia podcast and John Campia show, one of the best film analysts out there, which, hey, John, if you're ever watching this, good job.
Yeah, he's not watching.
He went ahead and made the idea that it's systemic of the idea that you are having these movies made for way, way more than they should be made for. Now, that's not necessarily maybe the case with something like Avengers Endgame or something like that. But then you have like smaller pieces like, like Emma or, Stuber or any kind of random comedy, even Bad Boys for Life, which was probably like the last big hit. Warner Brothers with Birds of Prey. Things that are being so exorbitantly funded, it now makes that much more weight on the theaters to bring in more people, to make that more money, because there's that much more of a cut that has to be taken by the theaters and by the movie producers and the filmmakers and the distributors. Everything is so overly inflated that the entire business model itself is fakakta.
It is, and it's been like that for a while, I think. Maybe
yes, and instead of actually doing anything to trim back, everyone's just been trying to keep up with the Joneses, and everything's gotten bigger and grander and more obscene.
But the only example that immediately comes to my mind is a film from 25 years ago, so it's a slight bit out of date in terms of budgeting, but it was Mallrats by Kevin Smith, who Kevin Smith even mentioned... Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, we could do this film for $50,000 or something like that. And their producer immediately said, like, no, you start at $1 million. Like,
yeah, so that this way he gets his money.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the business. It is overinflated. It's probably a reason why Netflix might do as well as it does. Not that I'm looking at the budget. Someone will correct me on this. I'm speculating here.
Well, you're the businessman. I know nothing of business, obviously. No. I'm fine living poor, but
I'm just making an assumption here because Netflix does make a lot of productions that look film cinematic quality. I've talked in the past about Altered Carbon. I've not looked at the budget for that, but I'm going to assume it's a lot less money than most of the films that you see in theaters either. So you can probably put on much better productions at a smaller cost. But yeah, some people need to get paid. They need that money in there. There's a lot of unions involved. But
It's overly going to be a bubble that bursts. I think anybody could go ahead and say that. And as far as like just being a general movie fan, do I enjoy the theater experience for some things? Yes. Do I feel like I have to have the theater experience for everything? God, no. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that I was an AMC aimless member, where I get my 3 movies a week that I can go ahead and see for like a low price of like $21 a month, there is no way I would be able to see and review as many movies as I have in the past year. And I don't know if there's any other way to go about what we're doing now. Some movies will have to be relegated to the theaters automatically because it's just going to be an overall social, bombastic experience. But other things really should just be relegated to streaming because instead of trying to go ahead and put it out in the theaters and trying to get some money back, you're ultimately wasting more than you need to.
yeah, it was such as like a Trolls 2 World Tour. I think that would do fine just doing streaming because that's just a kids movie. You don't need to bring a ton of kids to a theater to see that film. You could sit them down in front of their television and they'll watch it. You can buy it from them. They'll be happy with that.
Oh yeah, no, as far as like the consumer, that's probably the better mode. Instead of going ahead and trying to like get all the kids together, get them dressed, get them cleaned up, get them in the car, get them to the theater, get them into the seats, get the candy and the popcorn and everything for them because otherwise they'll be crying during the movie. And then you got to go ahead and make sure that they stay in the seats and they're not acting up and they're not being loud and they're not running around. Obviously, you can tell I've worked in a movie theater before and I have seen these things firsthand. But yes, it's a much cheaper, easier experience to keep it at home. But that is why the theaters are so pissed that a kids movie isn't in theaters, because you can go ahead and take like the 1 or 2 price ticket amount of $19.99 and make it exorbitant once you start adding kid after kid after kid, candy after candy after candy, soda after soda after soda.
So yeah, in that sense, I'm like, I can see the point of view of the movie theater where they had a knee jerk reaction. They're like, oh God, this is our way of life. We need these kids films. We need these dramas. We need every film, every major film from every major studio to be released to us first for 3 months or whatever period of time it is, so that we can make money because right now we are screwed. Like
more so AMC, I think, so than Regal.
The minute
I think Regal's just pretty much getting on the bandwagon because they know it's effective.
Because again, Universal coming out and saying, "Oh, we can put our movies in theaters just so we can get whatever money we need over there, but we can also put it over here at the same time, and we'll double dip, and we'll probably earn more money that way." I think AMC had that knee jerk reaction to say, "Oh no! If they do that, that's going to be near the end of us," and that was why I think they reacted the way they did. But in the end, I think that is going to again hurt them because Universal's going to survive. AMC might not survive. And what happens if the other studios start going, do we need to release in their theaters? Maybe we don't. And with Regal, I know Regal's probably looking at it like, we'll be next. Regal's probably doing better business from at least the way you and I have talked about it recently, but I feel they have to be in danger of their way of life too.
Well, any theater chain, I'd say, would really have to worry. Not so much even just the little mom and pop owned one, but really any chain that goes ahead and has like a worldwide effect. They've felt this more than, say, just our little Cranford theater over here in Cranford, New Jersey. For every single theater like that, there's at least 3 or 4 AMCs, plus the one Regal down there in, what is it, New Brunswick? Or East Brunswick?
North Brunswick.
North Brunswick.
But
so yeah, everyone's kind of feeling the cut, but obviously AMC's feeling it first and hardest.
Right.
And yeah, for all we know, when the theaters finally do open up, they may not even open up. It's a power play, no matter how you look at it. It's just a matter of who you want to put your chips with.
And that's something I wanted to bring up too, is the fact that even once coronavirus has flagged and once people start going out again, the theory right now is that a lot of people are not going to want to be in large crowds.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't even bring this up. I'll probably get yelled at later, but I'm working on a film festival in September, and I actually went to the director of the film festival and I asked him, like, so what are we still aiming for September right now? And as of right now, the film festival is on for September and it is a go. But I just like I'm wondering if people are still gonna want to come out to a movie to see movies with a crowd of people 5 months from now.
I mean, it'll be a question of whether or not you have to sit right next to somebody or whether or not you can like sit a row away.
Yeah, but at that point, then you can't pack the house either. So,
Yeah. Or either you extend the amount of time the festival goes on for, so this way everybody gets to see it,
mhm.
or yeah, you're going to suffer the losses of having to worry about keeping everyone at a certain distance.
And then you go into a theater, which at least where we're doing our show, it's a nice bar, so we can attract people with beer. But you go into a movie theater, which is a nice dark space, very crowded together, and sometimes I don't think anyone's going to really want to do that for a while. I think people are going to be turned off by that idea.
I mean, really, it all depends on your own personal preference and your own personal theater. Like, I've seen some things back when I worked at a movie theater that were like, you shouldn't be doing that in a theater. And yet, people have their own
When you
particular
say
comfort
that,
levels,
so many things pop into my mind. You shouldn't
and
be
they
doing that
probably
in a
all have.
theater.
I'll tell you that.
I know they have, but anyway.
Yeah, it's different from when we were like, little kids and we went to a theater and we were on like a first date or something. Now it's like, you know, seventh wedding anniversary, 50 Shades is on, and it's no.
Oh, God. Continue. Not with that.
No, but I'm
For
saying
something
if
else.
people aren't worried about that going on, I don't know if those people are necessarily going to be concerned about any kind of distancing or any kind of health hazards. But
I think
certainly
most.
there is a portion of the theater and a portion of the movie going public that is going to be affected for probably the next year at most.
Yeah. I think they'll go on for almost all events. I think that people are not going to want to go out. And in the case of movies, I think they rather just stay at home where it's safe and watch them rather than go someplace with a crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again,
I mean,
it shows that, Regal and AMC and Bowtie and whoever else you are, you don't have the foothold you think you are. And, you try a power play, you might get burned.
yeah, I mean, the movies will always have an outlet, whether it be one you have to go to or one that comes to you. As for the theaters themselves, buildings end up empty all the time.